Hey guys, it's Melissa here, and welcome again to another exciting episode of The Intentional Investor. Today, episode 12, we have a phenomenal jaw-dropping guest. Her name is Farrah Ali. You guys, how was that interview?
That interview was thebomb.com. So much fun on that interview. Farrah is amazing.
I think that was the best ever. So much gold nuggets. I mean, really from zero to hero. It's a zero to hero story. And it's a real life zero to hero story.
1000%. So just think about it. So this is a woman who is a single mom. She had a very challenging divorce. She left with zero money, without a house. She had to go rent a place with no furniture, and she's now a multimillionaire, right?
Yep, for sure.
You can say that. Mm-hmm.
For sure. And she even published a book. And she goes in and she talks about this. Man, I think this is not only inspirational for women, but also for men. Like, if you listen to what she's saying, such an amazing show.
Guys, I absolutely love this episode. There's so many golden nuggets that anyone can get from it. I hope you guys will join us here in just a moment. Join Keston, Oscar, and I as we interview the Farrah Ali. We'll see you there. Hello, guys, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, we have an exceptional show. We have Farrah Ali with us. Farrah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So do you mind if I brag on you a little bit and read your bio? Is that cool?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, cool. So guys, listen up. So this is Farrah Ali. You guys don't want to miss this. Farrah is a successful author, a real estate professional and entrepreneur with more than 18 years of professional experience in business. After overcoming a very difficult divorce, Farrah was forced to start all over again. With 2 kids, she was a single working mother in the insurance industry. And after beginning a career in 2001, you continue to dedicate every waking moment to your career and your 2 children, which is beautiful. After experiencing massive success in real estate, in 2019, you co-founded We Win LLC, an organization that inspires, educates, and motivates women to invest in real estate. Today, Farrah, you still remain committed to your career as an underwriting executive, while also keeping your eye on your real estate investing firm. In addition, you maintain an active role with the We Win Foundation, a foundation you helped co-found in 2019 in order to give back to the community. Welcome, Farrah Ali.
Wow.
Thank you.
Farrah, you telling me you still have a job?
So I do have my job. So I used to work full-time until last year. And then with the book, and I have an online course now. So what I've done is I went from full-time to part-time. And now I kind of just work a couple of days a week because my job really needs me at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And until they find somebody that I can train, then I'll transition. But it's kind of nice because I have my own hours, so I can kind of go whenever I please. And I really do enjoy insurance. One of the things is when you do become a real estate investor, you necessarily don't have to quit your job if you don't want to. So I do enjoy what I'm doing as an underwriting manager. So I really don't mind it at all.
Oh my God, that's a golden nugget right there. Guess what, guys? You don't have to quit 9 to 5 if you don't want to, if you actually enjoy your job and make the best of both worlds. Is that it? Is that it, Farrah?
Absolutely, yes. And if you're good enough at your job and you're valued, you can make your own hours because they won't want to let you go. They'll take whatever they can get from you. But you have to be that good.
There you go.
See, I think a major thing is people hate their jobs. They just have a job that they are in forever because they make ends meet, and they hate their jobs. There's not a genuine love. And so you're fortunate enough to have landed on, I would call your dream job, because if it's that you're making and be able to invest in real estate the way that you have and you're successful, you still stay at your job. I would say that that's amazing. Because I loved my job, but I was out of there. I'm like, peace. I love you. And so that's
yeah. If I was doing the same thing every single day and not growing in my position, then I would not like my job at all. But my job is something that I get to go out and train. I get to teach people insurance and that sort of stuff. So it's very different, and it's, like I said, I do enjoy it. So it just depends on what you're doing.
So this is a beautiful thing that I'm hearing you saying, because I think as a woman, you have different sides to you and you can flex in different situations. So you have the insurance side that you get to like wear that hat. You get the real estate investor hat. You get the mama hat, which I love your story because I can relate on all those different levels. And sometimes it's scary. I'm sure you experienced this after going through your divorce. You're thinking, okay, like it's just me. This is go time. I need to produce passive income. I can't really quit my job to pursue this. But like, can you just take us back, if you can, into that moment in time? What was going through your mind? And then also kind of peel back the layers too. I see that you got your MBA. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, so let's go back in time and kind of set the stage, right? So when I got separated, it was in 2009 is when I got separated, and I had at the time 2 young kids. They were 7 and 9, and so I had to leave with nothing. Like literally, like all I did was take a couple pieces of clothing because I couldn't tell my ex at the time that I was going to separate. So what I did was I rented a house, like 10 miles away. And I had this planned out where on a certain date, which was June 15th, I was going to take my kids and just move in. And so I walked into an empty house, no furniture. Obviously, I couldn't tell him, so I couldn't take anything with me except for clothes, right? So I walked into his empty house and I had these 2 kids, and I'm like, during that time, I'm like, oh my God, like I just did this. Like I couldn't believe I did it, but I did it. I had to. And so I'm like, what do I do next? Like, how do I support the kids? So the one thing I did know is that I knew I wasn't going to get child support because my ex was not working at the time. He had no income. So I started researching and looking for ways to make money. But before actually I did that, and the way that my mind was programmed was, go back to school and get a degree, because I had kids at a young age and I quit college and I took care of the kids. And then once this happened, I'm like, go back to school and then I'll get a better income. And then I got my MBA immediately because that's just what I thought I had to do. In order to make all that crazy money, I thought I would have to get my MBA. Mm-hmm. So I kind of did that, and I graduated in 2013 with the MBA. And when I went back to my employer, because I had my job, my insurance job at the time, and it paid decent. It took care of the day-to-day income. I'm sorry, the day-to-day expenses. And so I did get an increase in raise, but it was like 15%. And at the end of the day, with taxes and all that, it's not that amount that I have in my mind.
No.
So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. And that's when I started researching more about how to make more money. And then everything kind of that I was researching, it was all about, getting into real estate. And that's how I kind of got in. But as far as like the emotional factor, honestly, I just kept going. I did not give myself time to feel anything. I was just like on this mode where I just kept doing, and just kind of purposely neglected that fact, that whole emotional side, because I just had to perform at that moment. And then once I got to a place, I looked back and I was like, oh, wow, and I think that's kind of how I distracted myself from getting into any type of anxiety or depression or anything like that.
That's amazing. That's great. Oscar, do you want to share anything?
I mean, that's a story I wasn't aware because when I met Farah, it was like, wow, she's pretty successful. And she's like this woman, and I knew you were a single mom, and because I've seen your kids, your sons, right? So I was like, wow, she's pretty successful investor, and she still have a 9 to 5, and she has all this many rentals and everything. And it's like, but it's amazing to see to hear that, right? Because it just tells me that you're the struggle's real, but you overcame, and look where you are now. So I mean, I just want to give that, right, because we've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
At least me, so just Melissa, can I tell us about how I met Farah?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay, so 2015, 2016, I was in my, I had a restaurant at that point, and I was like, well, what's next? right? I mean, I need to make sure that when this restaurant doesn't work out anymore, or I need some kind of other incomes for my family, I need something that is more stable. So I looked at real estate. I Googled real estate. I Googled real estate investment. I Googled like rental, how to create a portfolio and everything. And I came into this person. His name is Andrew Holmes, and he's been having this 3-day event, right? So this 3-day weekend event, and I went through. Actually, before the 3-day event, he actually holds RIA meetings, right? The Chicago RIA meetings. He's basically the most active, right? He's everywhere. He's in like all the suburbs. That every time I see a notification, it's him having a meeting, like every single week, and I'm like, this guy is everywhere. So before even I went to the 3-day meeting, I went to all his RIA meetings. Right. So that's kind of like how I met with Andrew and a bunch of people, and also Farah, but I didn't talk to her. I was just, okay, well, I'm going to follow him. I'm going to see what he has to say and everything. And come 3-day, and I was hooked, basically. Right. That's when like I see a connection between Andrew, what he does, and him having a mindset of generational wealth, and having real estate as that vehicle, and building it up, and basically you can do whatever with your life after you work hard and acquiring properties, right? So I joined the mentorship, and that I did like that point. Farah, you're already in the mentorship,
Yes.
right?
I joined
When
in
did you?
2014.
2014. So 2 years back. So you're 2 years ahead of me. And 2016 October I joined, and that's when I officially met you and the crew and everyone. And I know at that point you were helping Andrew with running the events. I mean, you know how Andrew is. You're like, so he's just over there, and he let people manage the stuff and everything. And so you're always in the back.
Yeah.
You're always helping him and everything. So that's kind of how I met Farah, and I get to know her as an investor, and so that's how I met Farah. But one thing I see in her every time is that she's always working hard. There's always something that she's doing. And but you were an introvert. I can see that.
I still am an introvert.
You are still an introvert.
Yes.
I can see when Andrew first asked you to be on the video, right? It'd be like, and I remember Andrew said, "Miss Farah, say something." Right? Whenever
Right.
he puts you on the stage,
Yeah.
it's like, look at this woman, how she accomplished, and you'll be like, what do you want me to say? Right? so that's Farah, right? But then you have other businesses too, and now fast moving forward, we are in Florida together. We're doing new construction, which is so exciting, right? I can't wait for you to be the first one. And I'll just follow in your footstep, right? I'll just follow what Farah does. But that's you. I mean, that's like, I seen you from distance. We don't talk enough. Every time I talk to you, it's always something meaningful. It's always something that's more real estate stuff and everything.
Yeah.
But it's always been a great conversation, and I've always been trying to see, like, what's Farahs doing now, like what is she up to now, because I know it's something good. And I've kind of like, I've just kind of follow you throughout, so that's that.
So Farah, question.
Yes.
You said that after the divorce, you basically went back for your MBA, and then you got into real estate. Knowing what you know now, would you have done things differently? Would you have gone straight to real estate, or would you have gone for your MBA, knowing that real estate is doing what it's doing for you now, and kind of like a major part of your life? What would you have chosen?
So I think that if you're going, I think it's about who you are as a person, right? I would not change anything that I've done in the past, nothing, because even though the MBA didn't, get me to be a multimillionaire,
Sure.
what it did for me is it gave me a level of confidence that I did not have before. So when I got my MBA, I felt good about myself. People, how it is in the workplace, people treat you differently, and they look at you differently, and they give you a lot more respect in the corporate world when you're educated. And did I have a few opportunities that came my way because of that? Absolutely, I did. But I think that was a step that I had to take for myself. And then that's what actually got me to take the next step, because I don't think I would have been confident enough to walk into a real estate meeting by my own, because when I first was looking up meetings to go into the area in the Chicago area, I had actually called a friend with me, and I'm like, hey, let's go together, because I've never been to any of these meetings, and for all I know, most real estate investors are men. So I'm like, I don't know if I would feel comfortable. So I had one of my girlfriends, sign up with me, and the day of, she's like, oh, I can't make it. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, do I just cancel? Maybe I just go to the next one. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like,
Going.
I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to walk in and attend the meeting. Whatever happens, happens. And I went in, and surely enough, there was a lot more men than women, but I met some great people who then actually told me about Andrew's seminar that was coming up the following week. And that's how I got into this whole mentorship thing. So I believe that everything that happens in your life happens for a reason. It's a step to the next thing. And we're all in different places. So something that might work for me may not work for you. It's just about knowing who you are and trusting that what's going on in your life.
I love that.
So
Farrah, thank
good.
you so much. Thanks for sharing that, because I truly feel like you are a sister from another mister. Can I just say it? So same thing, right? You look back at your past. I had my MBA. I achieved that, but I don't regret it, because
Yeah.
it gives you a certain amount of confidence when you're working the corporate world. You're right. The more letters after your name, the bigger you are.
Mhm.
Really, I mean, we're all human. We're all the same. We're all just trying to figure it out and pave our own ways. But I'm just thinking of like the pressure that you must have been under. So you have these two little boys that are looking up to you. You're trying to lock down these deals. You're trying to make dinner. The laundry is going off. You probably have somebody calling you on the phone about a deal. Like, how does that all look? And if you could maybe peel back one of the deals that made a big difference in your life, we would love to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about like how I manage the day, right? So I would say like every moment has to be prioritized. So what I do is I make a to-do list for the day, right? So if I'm looking for a property, that becomes one of the number ones on my list, just to make sure that I'm on top of it. So I set things up in a way where the properties were being fed to me, um, via like apps like Redfin and all of that. So anything that ever lit on my phone, I would like check it right as I was going throughout my day. But if I have to go to work, I gotta go to work. If I had breaks or I had some extra time, I would just check my phone. And then if I, needed to make calls because a deal came in, I would try to find time. And then, when you go home, it's like, I had talked about this in another podcast, that there was a time where I was making dinner and a deal came up, and I talked, to the agent, and I was like, she's like, you need to come down now if you want it. And I had to stop everything and drive over there with my kids, checked out the property, made an offer on the spot. And then the kids were on the way home. We're just buying dinner. I'll make the dinner, that I made started tomorrow. So it's just kind of like that, you just kind of prioritize by the moment. And,
Yeah.
things are not perfect. I would have my laundry, I would dry it, and it would sit for a couple days in the laundry basket, so I'm like, well, it's not like anybody's watching over me. I got to do stuff based on what is priority at the moment. So you kind of have to give yourself, you're not going to be perfect, and allow yourself not to be perfect. And I think that just kind of like helped me with that. But kind of going to the deal, I think I want to talk about my very first deal, because I think I was the most emotional with my first deal. I also call it beginner's luck, because within 1 month of being in the mentorship program, I got this deal under contract. And
Nice.
I know there's no way I would have had the confidence to get something under contract and all the pieces be put in place for me if it wasn't for the mentorship. So, but when I did get it under contract and when I actually closed, the closing day was on my birthday.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. So not only that, I felt like it was like a gift from God, like my very first investment property. And so it was great feeling. I bought it for $75,000. I put about 20,000, I think 18 to $20,000 of work into it, and it appraised for like 145. So it's definitely had 40 plus thousand in equity. Cash flow was great. It was in a a small suburb here in the Chicago area called Lyons, a 2-bedroom brick home, 1 bathroom with a basement. I have the very same tenant that I had 7 years ago in there today, and she pays on time all the time. So
Wow.
Good
Amazing.
for you.
yeah, so it's a very, it's I think one of the most emotional deals that I did.
That's like your deal to freedom. Like
Yeah.
that was your ticket of proof to show that this does work. If I take
Yeah.
action, this is going to pay off.
Yes,
Good for you.
absolutely. And I know I talked a little bit about my situation, but when I said I had no savings, I really, honestly, to God, had no savings at all. So for people who think that they need to have a lot of money, you don't. You don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to have a good deal under your belt.
So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because someone is out there like, how did she do that? Like, where does she get the money from? Let's break down that deal. How were you able to, and you're doing it on the market? Not a lot of people that we talk to promote buying deals on the market. And so here you are getting a deal on the market, riding around with your kids, getting lunch as you go kind of thing. What was that like? Where did you get the money from? We know where you got the deal from, but where did you get the money from, and how were you able to pull this off?
So part of the group that we have is called Mastery, and within this group, there's a great support in that group. So there's a bunch of private money lenders, and they will fund you 100% of purchase and 100% of rehab. And these private money lenders, because it's a trusted group, and we're learning real estate the conservative way, the way Andrew teaches it, and they know that we've learned it the right way, so they are willing to lend 100% of purchase and rehab. So that's kind of how we did it. And what happens is during closing, that private money lender, let's just say the property was 100,000 and 50,000 rehab. I'm just making up some numbers, right? So they will wire the $150,000 to the title company, 100 of that or whatever it is used for purchase. The remainder of the money is getting wired to me in my bank account, and that's the funds I'm using for rehab. So that's why I didn't have to use any of my own money. And then as I built, my portfolio and got cash flow, then I had some of reserves from the cash flow that was coming in from the properties. And then those reserves, I have a choice of putting that right back into the mortgage to get that paid off sooner, or a choice of holding on to it and using it for more deals. Because what happens from time to time is maybe a rehab goes a little bit over, or my first 5-6 deals, I had to be extremely picky, meaning I had to make sure that I had no money invested in the deal. So the appraisal had to come so high that my lender could be paid off, my closing costs are paid off, and I don't have to bring anything to the table. But now that I have these reserves, if I have $2,000-$3,000 invested in the deal, it's still a phenomenal deal. But I was letting those deals go, which is why the first two years I went a lot slower than I did, after my third year and fast forward now to now.
So that's so amazing. Let's break that down a little bit more. For
there was a lot of things there. It was a lot of things there.
So many things there. So first of all, the mentorship. Let's talk about that. On every show, I feel like we talk about mentorships, and you paid some level of money, some amount of money to be around people who are now trusting you because of the teaching. You applied what they taught you. And so now getting a property is not a problem because they're able to fund it, knowing that you learned from the right place. So there's a lot of people who rather go to YouTube University and not invest in a mentorship. Guys, invest in yourselves. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to watch YouTube University and ask somebody on the other line to say, hey, I got a deal. You want to fund my deal? Like, that wouldn't have happened, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you got the deal, paying them back. You understood how to underwrite the deal, and that might have been some experience in being an underwriter as from your insurance company. And that's why like all things align, like that's major, right? Remember I asked the MBA question, would you have done that or whatever? And so now you're coming in here with these skills that you're able to apply in real estate. You underwrite the deal, and how do you pay the person back? For the people that's listening, because this part wasn't mentioned, you get the private money. How are you paying the person back on their deal with the money that they lent you?
Sure. So once you get the property, you close on the property and you rehab it, then what you do is you refinance it through a bank that has much better terms, long term, like we do 30-year loans. They do 30-year loans. So you just refinance it. Your mortgage payment is a lot lower than what it was with borrowing the money for short term. You pay that lender back completely, and now you have a mortgage of, let's just say it's $1,000 a month with taxes included, right? But your cash, you may be getting $1,500, $1,600 a month. So you're pocketing $500 or $600 average cash flow per month per property that you have.
So Farrah, are you saying you bought your first property with $0 out of your own pocket?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I had to, because I didn't have that money. I had to. I had no choice.
Guys, this real estate crap is real. Like here's somebody that just got divorced, got kids, on the road, like trying to make something happen and buying properties with $0 out of your pocket. What's the return? What percentage of return is that? Like the bank gives a 0.0001 return. Some CD accounts give like a point, maybe a 2 point something return. What return is when you get cash flow from $0, Farrah?
I would call that infinite. Because
infinite return.
Infinite until you sell the property.
Amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. And then imagine if you can duplicate that over and over and over again.
Yeah. Can I
So how many properties do you have now, Farah?
Go ahead.
Right now I have 38 rentals.
Oof.
Yeah, 38 rentals. I've done about 6 flips, and I've done about 20 to 25 wholesales.
Cool.
There you go.
That's what I was going to ask about, like your speed, because you said those first 5 or 6 deals happen slowly. So talk about that time frame. How long did it take you to do those first few?
Okay, so my first deal, remember I said, was beginner's luck. So I got that like within a month, right?
Yeah.
And then from that time to my second deal was 9 months. Like 9 months to get my second deal.
Yeah.
And I kind of talk a little bit about this in my book, where, after getting the first deal, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, I got this. And no, it's like, it took me a lot of time because, again, I had to be really picky with my deals. And there's a lot of competition out there, right? But during those 9 months, there were times, honestly, I felt like giving up, but I didn't. Because, anybody else like, well, this is not going to work after the 6 months of trying. But I stuck in there. And that's why it's also good to have like a support team around you, support group, because they'll keep you in the game, even when you get discouraged. But after I got my second deal, it was an online auction on Hubzu, actually, that I got. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So I got it at a really good price. It was in the same suburb. And then I realized that during those 9 months, I got really good at analyzing properties, at learning how to use the apps, how to be quick, how to talk to agents, because a lot of times I would have conversations, but then each step of the way you learn something. And then once I got that second deal, my third and fourth and fifth deal just kind of came like one after another. So even those 9 months, I realized I was just learning and getting really good at.
You were.
Yeah.
I was thinking that same thing. I'm thinking, even though there's that long time, right, that you're waiting, there's character building and character carving, and like, God, I know, we're all have the same face. So it's like God's doing something in you. Like he's building up something stronger, right? You have to have that strong foundation, because if not, you will fold. You will, just quit. So that's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah. And I think that's the one of the biggest things about like where you should invest your time in real estate more than anything is finding a deal. Because if you don't find a deal, you don't have anything.
I agree.
Right? So that's an area that you want to never give up. If you have to go, put in offers just to put in offers and look at houses just to practice, do it, because it'll get you one step ahead.
I agree. I think about that all the time with our business. It's just revenue generating activities. That is what we need to be focused on all the time. And if our attention isn't on that and on all these little things, it's not going to pay off
Yep, exactly.
for sure. Cool. Oscar Keston, anything else from all those nuggets?
Man, let's jump in again to let's jump into your time management, right? Because you're a newer investor, you're doing this now, you have a job, but now you have another thing going on, right? So you added another layer to your life, on top of your kids, on top of like this new house and trying to furnish it and all these types of things. How important was your time? How important was like your task list that you talked about and what you actually do?
So, you have to be very conscious of how you're spending your time. Like, you have to be very aware. If you haven't done it before, you need to start doing it now. Each minute, each hour does count. So, there's some sacrifices that I had to make, definitely. Like, I probably didn't watch any Netflix, any TV for a good, I don't know, like during my MBA, during my going back to school, um, and then working and with the real estate. I think I went 7 years, honestly, without really opening the TV at all. Maybe once
Wow.
Wow.
a year I would watch YouTube. I would watch a lot of motivational videos. I
Mm.
would watch a lot, I'm pretty spiritual, so I would research a lot about spirituality because I'm trying to figure out how does this world work? Like, why am I in this situation? Like, what's the purpose of my life? Like, all of those questions are going on in my head, right? So that's kind of where I was spending my extra time on rather than, watching these shows or whatever it is. Um, so just being aware of that and making sure that you're putting enough time. Like our mentor, Andrew, had always told me, you want to put in at least 45 minutes to an hour every day with real estate. That'll get you somewhere down the line. So I made sure that I did that. I made sure, I'm pretty big on like not ordering food from outside for my kids. Like, so that health is really, really important to me. So I would make sure that I carved out some time to make sure that I had, I was at least cooking, 3 to 4 times a week for the kids. So you have to kind of set whatever your priority is and then just kind of follow it. And then as what happens is, I would say the first 3 to 4 years were probably the hardest. But once I got the whole real estate thing down and I started getting some cash flow and I had a little bit more money to play with, I changed my strategy a little bit. So before I used to manage my own projects, my rehab projects. So I was like kind of like the GC. I would get an electrician, I would get a plumber, I would get a handyman, whatever I needed to do get the project done. But after my 7th or 8th property, I got a GC. I hired a GC. So when you hire a GC, you always know you're going to spend maybe 15% or 10 to 15% more of what the project is going to cost. So I let him handle that because I could spend a little bit more money on rehabs. That freed up my time a little bit more. And then as I started working with him on each project, the trust just got, we just gained trust with each other. I paid him on time. I checked his work. He did what he was supposed to do. And after the second or third property, honestly, like I would go in the beginning to look at the property. And then once he was all done, I would go when he was all done just to make sure everything was done. Throughout the rehab period, he would just send me pictures because we had that trust, right? So my time now is a lot less spending on that, more on acquisition. And then, things like, getting a maid to clean the house. I'm not going to spend, X number of hours a day of my time cleaning the house. I don't need to. My time is better spent acquiring or doing other things. So you slowly learn, why do we make money? We make money to make our lives easier. We make money so we can create more time for ourselves. One of my quotes that I always say is, I didn't realize until I created passive income how valuable time is. Like, time is actually the most valuable asset to me. Now that I'm here on this other side where I don't have to work the 9 to 5, I can afford to pay people to do certain things for me. I have a guy in Mastery actually who runs all my errands. I pay him a little bit of money. He goes to the villages for me. He turns on the water, whatever I need, he'll do for me. And that's time I don't need to be spending. And that's why I was able to write the book. That's why I was able to create a course. That's why I was able to create We Win and do the non-for-profit, because now I'm like, okay, where's my time most value spent? So we created the non-for-profit, which is my way of giving back to the community.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Amazing. And we'll get into this book that you wrote in just a second, but I want to really clearly I like diving deep into things that people say. So as a 9-to-5er, you didn't really, and you still have a 9-to-5, but the value on time wasn't as important until you started making passive income. Then you started to implement this concept of who, not how in your business, where you started leveraging other people. I think one of the mental shifts that I still struggle with today is sharing the wealth with somebody else, giving them a piece of the pie to get back the time that you can now invest in other places, which it sounds like you have done and still doing so terrifically in applying that concept. And I think once you get over to the, let's call it the right side of the quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki, you start leveraging people so much more. And now it gives you so much more time to do things that's more purposeful to your life. Right. And so let's talk about, you mentioned this book. Tell us, like, what is this book? What did you write about? Tell us about that.
Does it have all your secrets? I wanna buy 10 of them now.
So before I talk about the book, I do want to state one thing, and that is, the reason why I was able to shift to allowing other people to have a piece of the pie actually comes from my spiritual study. Because I feel like we're all kind of like brothers and sisters in humanity. And to me, if somebody makes a little bit of money, so what? Let them make a little bit of money, right? Like, it's not going to really take anything away from me. I already know in the long term, by me doing these more higher purposeful activities, that it'll probably come back to me. I'm not doing it for that reason, but I've just noticed a pattern that when I focus on higher level things, it just always comes back to me. So, some of these investors that I know, or people that I know, like, they squeeze contractors and people so tightly. You don't need to do that. Like, let them make a little bit of money. Like, yeah, be business oriented, do your numbers, but I'm not going to argue with you about $30. I'm just not going to. So it's I think that mindset, I think, is why I was able to shift to that. But going back to my book, so I wrote the book. It's called Diaries of a Female Real Estate Investor. It's on Amazon. And I wrote it because a lot of times people would ask me how I did it. Like, how do you do it being a mother? How do you do it working full time? How did you do it having no savings and no money? Like, all of these questions would always come up. And I felt like I wasn't doing justice, because I would give like 5-minute answers, because, I didn't have like that kind of time to explain everything. And I'm like, I wanted to explain more, but I had to go or something happened. So I'm like, what? I'm just going to put all of this into a book. And so my book is about my journey. Like, it talks about from the time that I separated, how I separated, what I was going through. It talks about when I first got onto stage, when Andrew asked me to speak about my testimonial, and I only had one property, and how poorly I felt about myself, because there's all these other investors who have a lot more properties, and he's putting me on stage to talk about my one property. So I talk about that whole thing. And then I talk about my journey afterwards. There's something that happened in my life like a few years later. I'm not going to give it up because I want you guys to read it. And I actually have, I think, at least 5 case studies in my book. So it's supposed to be inspirational, motivational, but educational as well. So I have 5 case studies where I actually go through, I have pictures of my property, my investment properties. I go through the numbers, like what the purchase price was, what the rehab is, what the finance fees was, what it appraised for, what the rent market, what the rent I get on it, so that people can kind of, like, the point of doing that is that people can start learning how to do these numbers on themselves, at least trying to get an idea of what this looks like, so that they know that it could be possible for them regardless of any situation. Like, I'm a true believer that I don't care what situation, what background you come in. I always say real estate does not discriminate.
Amen. Think about like your kids right now. Are they just so proud of you? Like, what are they doing? Are they doing any real estate?
Actually, I have the 2 sons. My oldest one is 21 now,
Wow.
and my younger one is 19. So yes, they both come and been around like on my real estate group. My older son, he actually got his first property with my help a couple years ago,
Amazing.
and so I told him just to kind of get him, interested into real estate. He actually decided he's more like an entrepreneurial mindset, so he decided not to go to college at the moment and kind of just dabble and see, what he can do. So he actually just purchased his second property all cash
Good
a
for
couple
him.
months ago. Yeah.
Wow.
He's
Yeah, he
so
doesn't
proud.
work and he doesn't have a W-2, so he couldn't do the whole refinance thing. So I'm like, well, if you want to do real estate, then you better figure out how to make money and buy it cash because he doesn't want to work, a 9 to 5. He just thinks that like
Yeah.
he can make more money doing whatever he did. So he did. He has, I don't know, he has some server thing that people pay him to advertise. He's got like, I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000 followers. So he was able to
Wow.
accumulate enough money to be able to buy a house cash. So yeah, they're
Amazing.
into real estate.
Yeah, I ask about your kids because it seems like you have a passion to educate and to help others.
Yeah.
And so as they're watching you along this journey, even though you know that their little eyes are always on you, I'm
Yeah.
sure they are so proud, or in some way, shape, or form, they're kind of walking in your footsteps, and they are. So that's
Yeah,
incredible.
but they're doing it their way because
Yeah.
my older son refuses to get a job making like 10, 12 bucks an hour. So he's got his own way. But I'm like, I don't care how you do it. If you're taking your cash and dumping it on a property, that's cool. Later on, you can refi it when you're older. But at least he's not, spending it on,
Mhm.
like Prada and Louis Vuitton and that.
Wow.
Or nice
You know,
cars.
this is a conversation I have with my sisters where it's like, do you allow your kids to go in the trends of the world today and kind of be themselves, or do you box them in to what you were taught, like go to school, do this, do that, then become a doctor? And it's like you are allowing them to think through based on what they have seen. Now, where could they have possibly gotten real estate from? Well, ding, 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 right? Like it's right in front of their face. And so you have led by example, and now they are like, I'm gonna be like mom, right? And although they're doing their own thing, they know where to put their money based on just being around. That's such an amazing. Guess what their kids are gonna do? The same thing.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
gonna, and so you were able to change your generational everything for years and years to come simply by pushing through, starting from your divorce to where you are today. Now, I want to ask a question that might cause you to think. Do you believe had you stayed in that relationship, your life would have looked anything close to what it is today?
Absolutely not. No, because me being in the situation I was in was a driving factor. Because I know when I got married, I had, quit school and I'm like, I'll just have kids and, just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably just be a housewife and I don't know, help out whatever I can. So it's not like I had like these dreams of being a real estate investor or an entrepreneur or anything like that. Like, you know how people talk about, you have these dreams and then they come to fruition. Like I really didn't. I didn't know where I was going. I was just kind of going whatever people told me, like get married, okay, I'll get married, have kids, okay, I'll have kids. Like that's kind of what my life was like. And then after the divorce and being in such a tight situation and knowing that I have these two kids that I have to support, it's my responsibility. That's what drove me to take different action steps, I guess, that I wouldn't have taken because I would have been too comfortable.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what they talk about, like the pressure of becoming a diamond, right? Like over time, with enough pressure and enough tension, like greatness is achieved. You turn that pain into gain. And I mean, from one female to another, I just applaud you. I applaud you because it's hard. You're trying to live out your own dreams and your own desires. You're trying to fulfill the needs of your family. It sounds like when this journey first started, or when you were married, rather, like you never had those desires. So was there anybody that you watched when you were being raised, like your mom and dad? I'm just wondering because there was some crazy um, work ethic that came out in you.
My
Right.
dad was a very hard worker, so was my mom in a different way. So my mom, she did work some of the years, and my dad was a hard worker. Like he was an engineer, so he would work, at his professional job, but then he would also go and work part time to just make that extra income. Because I have 3 siblings, 4 daughters, and that can get pretty
Yeah.
expensive. So I think probably watching like that work ethic, that definitely comes from my parents. Um,
What was his
we
side hustle? Sorry.
my dad,
Yeah.
he just worked at like a local nearby store.
Okay.
Yeah, just like he didn't have like that business mindset. So he
Mhm.
was so he didn't get into anything like business wise. So I don't like that I didn't get from them. I don't know, for the work ethic I got from them. Being a hard worker, I got from them. Like I started working at the age of 15, and we kind of just worked and kind of helped, with the household expenses with my own car and things like that. So I know I got that. The business mindset, all of that, I think I just kind of grew into it over time by reading the right books. Maybe it's could be in my DNA because I know my grandparents were entrepreneurs back in India. So maybe it could have been that. I just don't exactly know, but definitely like being educated and having an open mind and allowing yourself to break that pattern of not having to listen to everything. Because when I separated, I not only had, like my immediate family was supportive, but like my extended family, divorce is such a bad thing. The community, all of that, you have to deal with all of that. And I think that was probably the hardest decision. And with yourself, am I doing the right thing? Because you
Yeah.
have the kids, right? So I think that was the biggest struggle. Once I made that decision and left, it was like a lot of burden that was lifted off my shoulders, at least from an emotional standpoint.
Yep. You did not wear the shame. You
No,
clearly did not wear the shame. So
no,
good for you.
yeah,
And it's hard. You don't want to listen to those voices on other people because that's their life. This is your life. And
yeah.
you think about if you would have stayed in that relationship, you would not be the person you are today. You would not be making the impact you are. I love one of the things you said a couple of segments ago, and that you're delegating some of those smaller menial tasks where you're like, oh, do I pay for this? Heck yes, you have somebody else do it and you pay for it because you can make greater impact doing other things like writing the book at the bottom of the screen, right?
Mhm.
Diaries of a Female Real Estate Investor. I really hope, I know I'm going to read this book for sure. With 3 little ones, we'll find time.
I got somewhat of a petty question to ask, right? Um, did you like buy your ex-husband a house and be like, yo, thank you, bro? Like,
No, I did not, because I gave them both houses. I didn't want to deal with conflict, and I knew I did not have the money to spend that kind of money on an attorney, and I knew I was going to have a hard time. So I'm like, he got pretty much everything, and I'm just like, I'm not going to expend my energy on fighting. I'm going to expend my energy on moving forward.
that was such a petty question, but
No,
yeah.
that's okay.
But a
I-
powerful
you know,
answer, though. It's a
Yeah.
powerful answer.
Super powerful.
Yeah.
Amazing. I just love this story because if people could only see while they're in the midst of what could be the worst of their life and ask themselves, why does God even have me here? And I can't wait to see myself on the other side of this. Like, I think having that positive mindset, because I've been through a divorce as well. Like, I know, like, for me, it was the absolute lowest point of my life. And how that I was able to turn around and kind of just make the most out of it. It's amazing to hear your side and to even see your accomplishments as to where you are. I'm loving this. Totally love it.
Mm-hmm. Oscar, do you have anything else to share? Anything specific that you want to ask Farah?
I mean, I just want to know what's next for you.
What's next? Well, we're in Florida, new construction. It's another form of real estate investing. It's very, very exciting because it's something that, we're used to buying an existing home, rehabbing it, and,
Yeah.
renting it out, or flipping it. But here it's like building something from the ground up, from scratch. So we're all learning. I currently have some lots under contract. I mean, not under contract, already closed in Florida, and we're
Yeah.
just, step by step learning. So I think that is like the next exciting thing for the next year or two is just building duplexes, townhomes, single family homes, whatever we can get our hands on that work.
Yeah, right. Got to worry about those wetlands and turtles
Yeah.
and tortoise and scrub jays.
Yes, exactly. I've learned so much in the past month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think they're just creatures, but like, I mean, the amount of money we have to spend to just kind of get rid of them and go around them, it's crazy, right?
For sure. And what's cool is that we're all doing this together. Like we have our individual lots, but we're learning together as a group.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more fun.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's my next, I guess, journey.
Yeah. So I want to pivot a little bit. I want to ask one question that I wanted to ask you before. You said you're flipping and you're also wholesaling,
Yes.
right? So, why are you doing that? Why are you flipping when you have cash flow and you have a job, and why are you also wholesaling? I thought as an investor you want to keep everything.
Well, I started wholesaling. So I discovered a wholesaling by accident, actually, because there was a time that I had 9 properties going on at once and a full-time job and the kids and everything, right? So there was possibly no more. I'm doing this by myself. It's not like I have a team of people I hire. I could not take on another deal, and I got present. So what I did was I stopped looking. Like I'm like, I have too many properties. I'm not even going to look because it's going to be too tempting. And then I had an agent who called me and had this phenomenal property, and I was like, and it was a really good price I was getting it for, but I just could not take on another deal. And so I was like, you know what? I'm like, this is such a good low number that if I gave this to an investor and added 10 grand on it, that it would still be a phenomenal deal for them. And from that point, I was like, wait, why am I not even looking? I should continue looking. I should just, give these properties to these other investors. And, we have so many investors around us that, people will just eat that up. So, so that's kind of why. So anytime that I have too much going on, I just wholesale it. Or if there's a big enough, I've done some wholesales where I've made like 25K. And I'm like, wait, should I take the 25K and not have to do anything, or should I hold this one? Kind of that, depending on that.
It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, it is definitely a good problem to have. Yeah. And then there's some areas that, I don't particularly invest in. I like to have my properties like in, 5-6 pockets of areas in different suburbs. So if it's something that I don't have any property in, I might just give it to, an investor. And as far as flips, in my book, I did the first flip, so it tells you why I did that flip. But with the market being so hot and the crazy numbers that came out the past 2 years, like I couldn't help myself. There's one that I made an easy 75K on. And so I'm like, it's just nice to have that. And I think that those flips really helped because I was able to, have those reserves to buy those lots in Florida. So everything kind of, worked out.
Yeah. So basically, just to summarize, it's very much, you have some active income to fuel more of your passive income, right? So that's how you scale, right? Even though if you don't need the money, but everyone needs the money somehow, but there's a strategy behind this. That's what I'm trying to get. There's a strategy behind this. We have to keep looking, we have to keep thinking, and we have to see, what's best. And it's all about the numbers, right? It's all about the numbers, right? If you can make easy 10, 15, 20, 25K and not putting, not lifting a finger. I mean, basically just being a transaction engineer, right? Just kind of, hey, I'm going to have this property locked up and I have enough spread so I can make some money and you get to make some money. Then that's it. Instead of putting some crew on it, spend 2-3 months and then have to spend another 2 months listing it up on the MLS, and there's some property there's just too much spread and there's little work to be done. And now at the back end, you can actually get more money, right? So at the end of the day, this is what we do. This is what real estate professional does, right? We look at each property, we evaluate each property. Properties are the best of the best. We keep the ones that we really want. We keep for long-term passive growth. The ones that we know we can wholesale or we can flip, then there's a decision to make.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to be necessarily wholesaling everything. You don't necessarily need to flip everything. This is strategy. And this is something that you can you can learn it anywhere. I mean, YouTube, you can learn it, but there's some sort of again values in terms of mentorship or mastermind or whatever you call it that will give you a direct path to it.
Yeah, it makes
Right.
it a lot faster,
Mhm.
and it makes it where it's less risky because when you're doing it the right way, it's
Yep.
calculated risk, and and I
Yeah.
mean, the 60 plus transactions that I've done in the past 7 years, I have not lost a penny, a dime in any of them. So
Wow.
there's got to be something to be said about the way we learned how to do this, where
Yeah.
we have, some, we have a little bit of a margin or buffer where if something does go south, we still don't lose any money.
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
don't want our listeners to not lose their do this while still having a 9-to-5 job. Like, guys, stop the excuses, right? Like, where there's a will, there's a way. You just need to start kind of focusing differently on your time and what you put your time into. Stop the Netflix and chilling. You know what I mean? Do some. Listen to a podcast. Listen to a podcast. Join a mentorship.
Read
Put
a
in
book
some
or
offer
two.
on some deals, right? Read a book. Like it's all there, and we really have no excuse with our access to information nowadays. Like, there's none. It's all in what you want to achieve for your life. So, such an amazing story, and thank you so much, Farrah.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure, having, talking to all of you.
Yes.
So thank you so much for having me.
Farrah, thank you so much. Will you please share with the audience how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. So I have social media. My Instagram is Farrah Ali 7. My Facebook, Farrah Ali, I think it's 1213. But if you want to read my book, it's on Amazon, Diaries of a Female Real Estate Investor. I also have a website, farrahali.org. So Farrah, FARRAHALI.org.
Love
And
it.
there you can learn more about me. My book's on there as well. And then if anybody is interested in taking a course that I've created called Getting Primed for Real Estate Investing, it sets you up in the right way. So that option is there on my website as well. And then if anybody wants to email me, it's rei@farrahali.org if you have any questions or anything like that.
So REI at Farrah, FARRAHALI.org.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome.
And we'll put all of these things in the show notes. So if you didn't get it, you could definitely look for it in the show notes.
Yeah, don't start writing this up when you're driving, all right?
I agree. Farrah, it has been such a pleasure. We have all enjoyed having you today. Thank you so much for carving out your valuable time to be with us.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Until next time, we'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.
Peace.
Thanks, Farrah.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, it's Melissa here from the Intentional Investor Show. If you like what you hear and if you want to dig deeper into your own real estate journey, hit the subscribe button below. We would love for you to join us. Thank you so much. Until next time.